The NFLandU podcast. Welcome to another exciting episode of the NFLandU podcast. We got a jam-packed episode for you today on October 4th. We have a exciting recap of a great Thursday night football game. Don't hear that very often. We got a lot of news, and we got a bunch of previews for the rest of Week 5. It's going to be a good show today, people. It's going to be a really good show. Got a lot to get to, and it's gonna be a fun day on October 4th. It's spooky season, people. Spooky, and it's even more spooky if you're a Dolphins fan. Oh, had to get that shot in. Hey-oh. So let's kick things off with a bang. Let's start with the recap of Thursday Night Football. Rams at Seahawks, and Seahawks win this one 30-24. Seahawks improved to 4-1 already on the year. Very impressive start by the Seattle Seahawks. And the Los Angeles Rams fall to 3-2 so far this season. Two back-to-back losses by the reigning NFC champions and the Los Angeles Rams. This game was fun. Oh my gosh, it was fun. Oh man, it comes down to a 44-yard field goal by a usually very reliable Greg the Leg Zuerlein, and he just misses it just a couple inches to the right. Just whiffs it, and Seattle hangs on in a very, very fun game. And I cannot stress enough how fun this game was. It looked like it was going to be a bit of a one-sided beatdown in the first half. Because Seattle jumped up to like a 14-6 lead, and it looked like they were going into halftime with that lead, and until things got a little weird. Seattle, let me first get to the first half. And let me tell you, if you haven't seen the Tyler Lockett touchdown in that first half, go find it on like YouTube or Twitter. Go find this catch, because this is one of the most insane catches I've ever seen in my life. And I think Troy Aikman was right. I think Russell Wilson was trying to throw this ball away on a little 13-yard touchdown pass to Tyler Lockett in the corner of the end zone, and he hits that tippy toe tap cheese in the corner. It's insanity. And Next Gen Stats from ESPN said that completion had a 6.3% chance of happening. It's the lowest on any scoring completion in 3 years. Think about that. That's how insane that catch was. Twitter blew up because they were loving it so much, and it was just another great pass by Russell Wilson, who balled out this entire night. Who has been playing tremendous football through the first couple weeks of the season. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I think Russell Wilson is one of the most underrated, not just quarterbacks, but players in the NFL right now. Russell Wilson finished 17 of 23 for 268 yards, 4 touchdowns, and got sacked once. Russell Wilson is flat out balling out right now. And it feels like nobody's really talking about it. Dude played phenomenal this night and made big pass after big pass, and just the way he just throws the ball is so beautiful. I just can't describe how this man passes the ball. It's just magic. It really is. He's Danger Russ for a reason. See what I did there? Russell Wilson, Danger Russ, haha. Anyway, so Seahawks go up 14-6 in the first half. And it's looking bad for the Rams. Their offense can't seem to get out of the blocks, and they're going nowhere quick. Even though they were feeding Todd Gurley early, and it looked like he was going to have a bounce-back game, that kind of stopped as it got closer to halftime. Well, Seahawks get into field goal range, and it gets to 4th and 1. And they go to the line, and they act like they're going to go for it, but they're just trying to get the Rams to jump offside. And then they send out the field goal unit. Well, field goal kicker shanks it. The Rams, in turn, then go up-tempo, march down the field with what little time is left, like a minute 30 left in the first half, and score a touchdown with Cooper Kupp. Yeah, another great game for Cooper Kupp, by the way. 9 catches, 117 yards, and a touchdown. Feels like he's averaging almost 100 yards receiving each game. And it brought it to a 1-point game going into halftime. And from that moment on, from the moment that touchdown drive happened for the Rams till the end of the game, it looked like the Rams offense that we had been waiting to see break out these first couple weeks. They look like the Rams from last season. But looking at Seattle and that decision not to go for it on fourth down, maybe they should have gone for it. I'm just saying, Chris Carson had a heck of a night. Their running back, 27 rushes for 118 yards. He was bowling over people, and he also caught one touchdown pass. Dude flat out was trucking people. And this was the kind of game that Chris Carson, really, really, needed, to be honest with you, to really, because he had the fumble issues in the first couple games, and he had a nice bounce back week last week, but this was a Chris Carson game was what this was. This was showing that he is the alpha in that running back room, and that the carries should go through him, which is what this game was. But I really think that was an instance of the Seattle coaching staff maybe blowing it in a big situation in this game, because they definitely blew it later in the game. We're going to get to that in a second. So they don't go for it on 4th and 1, and I think they should have gone for it. Then we come out of halftime, and the Rams score a touchdown immediately on their opening drive. And they go up 20-14. Now you can say all of a sudden there's big momentum with the Rams because they scored the touchdown before half because you didn't go for it. And now they get the ball to start the second half, and they score again, so now they take the lead. But the second half, it was a more back-and-forth struggle between these two teams. Seattle would go up. Then the Rams would go back in front. Then the Seahawks would go back in front. It was just a back-and-forth heavyweight slugfest between these two teams. And on a night where neither defense really played well, especially the Rams secondary, who just could not seem to slow down the Russell Wilson air attack. But in the second half, for as much as maligned as Goff was in the first half, he played much better in the second half, even though he didn't complete a pass on third down until like the beginning of the fourth quarter. Jared Goff finished 29 of 49 for 395 yards, a touchdown, and one interception, which we'll get to in a minute, which really wasn't his fault to begin with. Jared Goff played really, really well in the second half. And speaking of that, we go to the fourth quarter, and it's, back and forth. Seattle, we're going like halfway through the fourth quarter when Seattle takes the lead off the Chris Carson touchdown pass, where Chris Carson almost drops the freaking ball. I mean, oh my gosh. Russell Wilson scrambles out of the pocket, and it looks like he's going to run for the end zone, which brings the defender off Carson, and Russell Wilson just lofts it, just ever so slightly over the defender's head, and Chris Carson touches the ball, pops up in the air, and the first thing that went through my mind was, oh God, he's about to drop this football. And then he catches it, and it's a touchdown. And Seattle's thinking, okay, great, now let's go for two, which I admire the aggressiveness, and they're up 30-29 at this point in the fourth quarter, so you think they go for two, that way, at worst, the Rams would tie it with a field goal sort of thing. So they go for two, don't get it. Rams get the ball back. Jared Goff is trying to move the ball downfield to get into range for Greg Zuerlein, and he hits Gerald Everett, who had a really great night. He had 7 catches for 136 yards. Hits Gerald Everett right in the hands. It was a very catchable ball by Jared Everett, and it just goes through his hands. And it goes into the hands of one of the Seahawks defenders, Thompson, and he makes this insane interception that I don't think we're talking about enough today. The effort to get your hand under that ball and catch it, and then ensure that you're catching it. It was just an insane play by Thompson. And when that interception happened, I thought that's game. It's like 2 minutes left, and Chris Carson has been trucking people in the second half. Seahawks are probably going to pick up a first down through the ground, and that's game. Well, Seahawks get the ball. They drain the Rams 2 timeouts, and it gets to 3rd and 1, and the Seahawks are going to run it, which is the right call, and I agree with it. But they ran the wrong play. They ran an option play with Russell Wilson and I think Carson out in the flat, and it just looked ugly. And I think it was a horrendous call and a massive mistake on coaching. And I really think if they just went big boy football and ran Chris Carson up the middle, they probably get that first down very easily, even with Aaron Donald probably up the middle. But don't agree with that option play call. And I think it was another instance in this game where the Seattle coaching staff almost blew it again. And they get stopped on third down, and the Rams get the ball back with like a minute 30 left. And now it's in Jared Goff's hands, and he's making plays. He made that massive, I think it was on third down, massive deep downfield pass to Gerald Everett to get them in field goal range. And now he's just hitting little dunk-offs to Cooper Kupp, getting them closer and closer. And it sets up Greg Zuerlein, but it's just not enough. He just misses it to the right just by inches. And closes out a really great game. I mean, my God, we got 2 back-to-back good Thursday night football games 2 weeks in a row. That's something. Probably won't get it next week, but hey, enjoy it while you can. But like I said with the Rams, when I said it on Tuesday, I said we're going to learn a lot. I think from this game, I think we learned a lot. I think the Rams offense finally figured things out, in my opinion. I'm not worried about the lack of numbers from Todd Gurley because he played like 65 snaps last Sunday, had 3 days off, and then played like 65 snaps in this game. So I think the leg is fine, and I just think that the lack of production is more from them being behind so much in these last 2 games. I think the knee is fine with Todd Gurley, and I for the first time I looked at the Rams offense this season and said, that's the Rams. Even in a losing effort, I saw the Rams from last year and the year before. Now it's just going to be on them to, try and maintain. Try and, keep finding that. I really think this loss can help galvanize the Rams, or it can really break them. This might just be an off year for the Rams. We've seen it happen with teams in the Super Bowl in the year before. They just come back the next season and just aren't the same. It happens. But I'm telling you, this Seahawks team, their defense might not be there right now. Their linebacking crew is for real. I still have questions about their secondary, but that Seahawks team, that offense and Russell Wilson, it's going places. Russell Wilson is flat out murdering people through the air right now. And this was just a really fun game. Oh man, it was fun. I'm sorry, I just can't. I'm watching the replays on the NFL Network right now, and it's just Russell Wilson throwing darts downfield, and it's just beautiful. And by the way, I failed to mention, I think it was in the fourth quarter or the third quarter. I know it was in the second half. But that throw by Jared Goff to Cooper Kupp on like third down when you thought he was going to hit Everett for a small gain, but he just floated it over the defender's hands to hit Cooper Kupp downfield. That's the kind of play that Jared Goff makes where you're like, that's why he was taken first overall. Because he'll make beautiful plays like that. Sure, he's been in a bit of a slump since like week 14 of last year. He hasn't put up the greatest numbers, but I still think he's a good quarterback. So once again, Seahawks win this one 30-29, and I'm gonna be honest, I think that was a classic game. I think that's a game we can talk about at the end of the year for being Game of the Year contender. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. Seahawks improved to 4-1, and the Rams fall to 3-2. And we're gonna move on to news real quick. We got a fair amount of news to get to. We're gonna start with the newest news that broke right before we started taping this podcast. The Washington football team finally named who their starting quarterback is going to be this Sunday against the Patriots, and they're going with the veteran Colt McCoy out of the University of Texas. It took all week to get to this point because Jay Gruden, their head coach, just flat out refused to name a starter throughout the week. I mean, if anybody was following this the storyline throughout the week, there were quotes where he was saying in press conferences, when somebody asked him, what's the plan at quarterback? He said, we have no plan at quarterback. That is an actual quote from the head coach saying, we don't have a plan at quarterback right now. Well, apparently they do, and it's Colt McCoy. I think no matter who the Washington football team starts on Sunday against the Patriots, it won't make a lick of difference because the Patriots are going to come out and German suplex the Washington football team into a different dimension is what they're going to do. They're going to German suplex these poor people into hell. And by the way, there was a report that came out, I think, early this morning by Pro Football Talk, and I had heard some whispers about what they said uh, throughout the weeks, and now it's starting to build traction that maybe it is true. But Jay Gruden, apparently the Washington football head coach, allegedly, according to the Pro Football Talk report, never wanted to draft Dwayne Haskins to begin with. Their rookie quarterback that they took in the first round at like 15th overall. He apparently didn't want to draft him. Now, if you go back to the draft time, you remember that there were a lot of reports saying that the Washington football team's owner, Dan Snyder, was stepping into the draft process and telling them, you're taking a quarterback. And that's what they did. And we all kind of agreed that that's what they were doing. And if you really think about it, an owner coming in and telling a head coach, this is what you're going to do at draft time, it probably didn't sit well with the head coach. But if you weren't on board with drafting this kid, you're not going to suddenly be on board with him a couple of weeks into the season. If you didn't support that kid at draft time, you're not supporting him now. That's not a dig on Dwayne Haskins, and that's not a dig on Jay Gruden. It's just the way it's always worked. If you weren't supporting them then, you're not supporting them now. And if that quarterback doesn't have support, he's not going to succeed. It's as simple as that. But I hate to say this, but Dwayne Haskins is more than likely going to outlast Jay Gruden, barring some insane twist of fate. I mean, Jay Gruden, we've talked about it on this podcast before. Jay Gruden's probably getting fired in the middle of this season. And it might even be by this coming Monday. Because there were reports last week that if he lost to the Giants, he would be fired, and he stuck around, even though he lost. So maybe if they get blown out 40-10 by the Patriots, maybe that's when they finally decide to pull the trigger. It's just Washington's not in a good place right now. They're in a very, very bad place where nothing is going right. And now you have reports of the head coach didn't even want to draft the guy who's trying to be set up as the future of the franchise. It's a really, really bad look right now for the Washington franchise. When we'll talk about them a bit later when we get to the game previews, but they're not in a good place. Moving on to other quarterback news, Sam Darnold, the Jets quarterback, officially ruled out for this Sunday because his spleen is still too swole, is a good way to put it. To quote Sam Darnold, the spleen did what it wanted to do, and it didn't go down. He had been in a limited participation in Jets practice throughout the week, but the simple fact of the matter is his spleen is still too large, and the main concern is if he goes out there and gets roughed up even just a little bit, the spleen could rupture, and it could kill him. That is not a joke. I know we've ragged on him for having mono, but that is very serious. And there was that very awkward quote he gave at a press conference, like, I think it was Thursday or Wednesday. He said, "I feel ready to go, but I just don't want to die." It was very awkward, but it's true. We don't want this young man to die, and it sounds like Luke Falk is going to get another chance at being a starting quarterback, even though he really shouldn't, because he put up like 99 total yards in his one and only attempt. That was enough to, make me not want to watch it. So it sounds like Luke Falk is going to get the starting nod for the Jets as they go to Philadelphia to take on the rebounding Eagles, who have had an extra couple days to prepare for this game because they were on Thursday Night Football last week. And if you're the Eagles, you're licking your chops that you're getting Luke Falk. So maybe Le'Veon Bell gets a big day, big workload day. Who knows? All right, two more things in news. This one's actually pretty interesting, in my opinion. A Vikings receiver, Stephon Diggs, missed practice Wednesday with a non-football related issue. He is apparently, according to Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network, is apparently very, very unhappy with his role in the offense so far. And he came back Thursday, and they asked him, they asked him, is there any truth to the rumors circulating that you want to be traded from this team? And, normally when somebody's asked that question, they usually, deflect and say, oh, there's no truth to that sort of thing, normal, safe answers that doesn't, stir up any controversy. Stephon Diggs took the opposite route, and when asked the question, are there any truth to the rumors that that you want to be traded? He answered, and I swear this is the actual answer he gave. There is truth to all rumors. That is the quote he gave. So Stefon Diggs apparently wants out of Minnesota. He is unhappy with their, I'm going to use the word de-evolution to a run-only team. And I get his frustration because he's basically become a bystander in that offense. They're not using Adam Thielen and Stefon Diggs. They're just there to block downfield for a run game at this point. And yeah, Kirk Cousins is not playing well so far, and he's not really pushing the ball downfield, and he's checking down a lot. But it also has to do with the fact that the Vikings offense is like 70% run-based. And I think that's even being generous. And it's just not a good time for the Vikings offense right now, even after that super awkward thing with Adam Thielen and Kirk Cousins earlier in the week, where, remember, after Sunday's game, Adam Thielen called out the ability of the Vikings to push it downfield, and Kirk Cousins came out and publicly apologized to him. It's like super awkward in Minnesota right now. And head coach Mike Zimmer came out a little bit ago and said that we don't know if Stefon Diggs is going to play this Sunday or not. So that's a big question mark on a team that's really hurting offensively right now, in my opinion. Vikings kind of seem like they're in free fall right now. So we'll keep an eye on Stefon Diggs, another player that apparently wants out of a situation, much like Jalen Ramsey in Jacksonville. And we'll see if it ends up like Jalen Ramsey, where the organization comes out and says, we're not trading you. Or if Stefon Diggs is going to get what he wants. Because remember, because the Vikings have apparently already come out and said, we're not trading Stefon Diggs. But they said the same thing about Percy Harvin a couple years ago, and then a couple weeks later traded Percy Harvin. So we'll see how this goes. I mean, to be honest, they're not really using Stefon Diggs. So it's not like he is an integral part of an offense if you were actually using him. But they're not actually using him. So why not trade him? Why not? Trade Stefon Diggs to a wide receiver needy team. See if you can get some O-line help. Help bolster that running game, create more holes. I bet that would make Mike Zimmer very happy. I'm just saying, I would rather see Adam Thielen and Stefon Diggs on a team that would actually use them than to just be bystanders in an offense that maybe they get a couple passes a game. That's what I'm saying. So we'll keep an eye on that and keep you updated on that. Last but not least, Patriots kicker Stephen Gostkowski, if you didn't hear, had season-ending hip surgery throughout the week. He's going on IR. He's done for the year. He's been the Patriots kicker since 2010. And then on Thursday, Patriots signed longtime NFL veteran Mike Nugent, 37 years old, has played with the Jets, Bucks, Bengals, Cards, Cowboys, Raiders, Bears. And career on field goal attempts, he's gone 253 of 311. That's, for those of you who are not good at math like me, that's 81%. So, hey, not that bad. And this will, like I said, this is the first time since 2010 that the Patriots will be without Stephen Gostkowski as their kicker. So we'll see if New England gets into a shootout and it comes down to a last-second field goal, maybe Mike Nugent shanks it and they don't make the Super Bowl. Just something to keep an eye on. Because Gostkowski had missed a couple kicks so far this season, and now he's done for the year. And Gostkowski has been one of the better kickers in the league the last couple of years. Very, very reliable guy. So we'll see if Mike Nugent can pick up the slack. All right, that's it for news, and we're going to get into game previews now. Lot of games to get to. What is it like? It's like 12, 13. We got 14 games to get to. And by the way, whoever designed this NFL schedule needs to be shot from a cannon into the sun. You know why? Because you got 10 games this Sunday that kick off at 1 o'clock. 10 different games that kick off at 1. And then you got 2 games that kick off in the 4 to 4:25 time slot. That is so lopsided. Like, at least give it like 8 to 4. At least do that. 10-2, my head's going to be on a swivel at 1 o'clock. I'm not going to be able to enjoy anything. So we're going to start with, I guess, we're going to go international with this one. Bears at Raiders, the first of the London games. Kicking off at 1 Eastern, surprisingly. These games normally kick off at like 9:30 Eastern. And I wake up in the fourth quarter is how it usually goes. But 3-1 Bears playing the 2-2 Raiders in London might maybe get interesting. You never know what you're going to get with the Raiders at this point. But make no mistake, this is the Khalil Mack revenge game. And what is it like? It's been like 18 games since Khalil Mack was traded from the Oakland Raiders to the Chicago Bears. And Khalil Mack has... I think the stats between Khalil Mack and the entire Raiders defense are almost the same in terms of sacks and touchdowns they've scored. And forced fumbles. That's insane. Khalil Mack is a one-man game wrecker. And he's already said after last Sunday's game that this game versus the Raiders is the one he's been looking forward to. So you got Khalil Mack, he's ready to roll. Then there's Akeem Hicks. He's questionable with the knee injury for this game. Bears still a little banged up on defense, and here's the interesting thing, because we talked about it on Tuesday. Roquan Smith, who we talked about, we still don't know if he's going to play in this game. He did make the trip to London, so he is with the team. We just don't know if he's playing or not. Remember, he missed last week with a personal reason, and we still don't know what that personal reason was. But we'll see if Roquan Smith, very good player, can suit up for the Bears this Sunday. But the Bears proved last week that even if they're missing Roquan and they're missing Akeem, they can still dominate teams. Just ask the Vikings. Bears have the number 5 total defense so far this year, 290.8 yards per game they're giving up. But more importantly, for the Raiders, the Bears have the number 3 rushing defense at 61.5 rushing yards per game. The Raiders want to be more of an old school smash mouth team with Josh Jacobs, who is averaging about 76.8 rush yards per game. The question is going to be, can the Raiders run? Because I really don't trust that passing offense with Derek Carr to light it up. What they're going to hit me with Tyrell Williams? Okay. Bears defense is going to come out and do what they've done the entire first month of the season. They're just going to come out and dominate and smother people. And Derek Carr is going to have a long day at the office. For Chase Daniel, who is playing quarterback in this game for the Bears because Mitch Trubisky is out with a shoulder injury, just keep the ship afloat. You don't have to take big risks. You don't have to push the ball downfield a lot. Just, make some solid plays. Chase Daniel does not have to do a whole bunch. He knows Matt Nagy's system like the back of his hand. And I think he'll be okay. I do question where the Bears' running game has been. It feels like it's been non-existent. We'll see if Taylor Gabriel, their wide receiver, can play in this game because he didn't play against... Did he play? I don't really remember if he played against Minnesota. I know he missed against Washington. But both teams are a little banged up right now. But I do think the Bears defense is going to do what it's been doing the entire season. It's just going to come out and dominate. And that's why I take the Bears in this one. It might be a very low-scoring game because the Bears defense is going to hold Oakland in check. But I don't see Chase Daniel putting up a lot of points with that Bears offense. Oh, and there it is right there. I just saw it at the bottom of the screen. Taylor Gabriel for Chicago is out with a concussion. So there you go. Chicago's offense is a bit banged up. You're going to have to hope Allen Robinson can really get some big plays going in that wide receiver room. And maybe Ty Montgomery, their running back, can finally bust out of his shell. It feels like we've been waiting for that all season for the Bears. But I got the Bears winning this one in London. Moving on, 2-2 Jacksonville, going all the way to Carolina to take on the also 2-2 Carolina Panthers. Another team where their defense is what they're good at. Panthers D is number 4 in total defense, 287.5 yards per game they're giving up. Number one in pass defense, they're giving up 156.8 yards per game. And tied for number one with the Patriots in sacks with 18 on the year. That's another way of saying the Panthers' defense is legit. And that's their game plan. They're going to come out, play really, really good defense, and then have Christian McCaffrey run for a buttload of yards. Christian McCaffrey is averaging over 100 rush yards per game, which is crazy. He's at 411 on the year, which is just one more than Dalvin Cook, which is why Christian McCaffrey is in first place for rushing in the league. He's got an insane workload, is what I'm getting at. Christian McCaffrey is doing it all on that offense. He comes out and rushes, and he comes out and receiving. He does it all for that offense. And that's good because that's putting less pressure on Kyle Allen to go out and, make big plays, because you got Christian McCaffrey making big plays and that defense is holding things down. Kyle Allen, their quarterback, does not have to do a lot right now, and that's good. Ideally, the less he has to do, the better. That's not a slight on Kyle Allen. It's just, he's a backup quarterback, and you don't want him having to score, 30 points in a game. But then looking at their opponent, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are kind of riding high with Gardner Minshew right now, they're in love. The Jags are a bottom third in passing offense. They're averaging just over 200 passing yards a game, which is going to make Carolina fans very happy, because a not so great passing offense versus a really great passing defense, you can already tell how that's probably going to end. They're about middle of the pack, around 14th in total offense. But it's all about that rushing offense for them. They're averaging about 135 rush yards per game. That's a really bloated number because Leonard Fournette had 200 rush yards last week, but he's going to have to keep it up, especially in this game, which could, be a down and dirty defensive game. I have some questions about that Jacksonville defense, especially with Jalen Ramsey officially ruled out for this game again. But for Jacksonville, they're going to have to, keep that running game alive and keep Leonard Fournette staying productive for them, which will take pressure off of Gardner Minshew and will allow him to, make better throws downfield. And when the season started, I was really down on the Jacksonville offense as a whole, especially their wide receiver room, because I thought there was nobody in there. But I was really impressed by DJ Chark the first couple weeks. And he's got a real connection with Nick Foles. Not Nick Foles, Gardner Minshew. But as long as Leonard Fournette can stay productive, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars can be dangerous in that AFC South. But every AFC South team is so week to week, you just never know with them. But in this one, I'm going to take the Panthers to win in their home in Carolina. I think their defense is just going to smother Gardner Minshew, and he's just going to have another bad day at the office. Oh, and by the way, we mentioned it last Tuesday. Gardner Minshew was listed in the injury report this week for a knee injury after that low hit by Bradley Chubb last week in the game. So keep an eye on that. Gardner Minshew could be a bit hobbled in this game. Something to look out for. All right, moving on to our next one. The 3-1 Bills going to Tennessee to take on the 2-2 Titans. As we've talked about all season long, the Bills' defense is legit. And now there is no questioning it after they were able to shut down and slow down the Patriots last week. Bills are number 2 in total defense, 280.8 yards per game. And they're going to need it in this game. They're going to have to get after Marcus Mariota and get him frazzled in Tennessee. Because Josh Allen is still in concussion protocol, the Bills quarterback. And it sounds like he's not going to play. So that means Matt Barkley, the former USC Trojan quarterback, is going to be suiting up in this one. So Matt Barkley comes in on a Tennessee offense that already wasn't that great to begin with. So you have to wonder, does that mean Frank Gore, the ageless Frank Gore, who is probably older than every listener of this podcast combined, is going to see another big workday? He had 100 rushing yards last week. He might have 100 in this game. Like I said, the Bills' defense is really going to have to show up in this game to give them a chance to win. And Frank Gore is going to have to show out. And maybe Dalton Knox, their tight end, comes back into the fold, gets some more yardage in this game. Maybe a lot of dump-offs to Cole Beasley, who knows what we're going to get from the Bills offense. But more importantly, what are we going to get from the Tennessee Titans? Are we going to get the Tennessee Titans that got Marcus Mariota sacked 9 times against Jacksonville in week, what was that, 3? Or are we going to get the Tennessee Titans that came out and blew out the Atlanta Falcons in week 4? Which version of that are we getting? I think we know what we're getting from their defense. We know that their defense is going to limit big plays and that they're going to be a bone-crunching unit on the defensive line. I think we know that from their defense. I just don't know what we're getting from their offense. And yeah, in this game, Taylor Lewan's coming back. I think their left tackle is what he plays, if I remember correctly, which is going to be a big get for them. He's coming back from suspension. So that's going to help protect Marcus, and that's what it's going to come down to. Can you protect Marcus Mariota in this game? Because it showed last week when they protected him in Atlanta, he made big plays, especially to A.J. Brown. Will A.J. Brown have another big game? That's another good question. You just don't know what you're getting with Tennessee. You just don't. They're so week to week, like every AFC South team. And you know what? They had a great week last week, so I wouldn't be stunned if they have a terrible week and get absolutely dominated this week. It's just who the AFC South teams are. But as long as you protect Marcus Mariota, I think you'll be fine, Tennessee, and that's why I'm taking the Titans to win in this one. I've been hard on them the entire season, and rightfully so, but I just cannot believe in Matt Barkley. I just can't. The moment it came out that Josh Allen's not going to be able to go in this game, I knew the Titans were winning it. I just can't believe in Matt Barkley. I'm sorry, Bills. The Bills will be fine. Josh Allen will hopefully come back next week, but just take your L this week with Matt Barkley. It's okay. All right, moving on to our next game. A matchup of 2 winless teams, so something's got to give in this one. The 0-3-1 Arizona Cardinals going all the way to Cincinnati to take on the 0-4 Bengals. And for the Bengals, this is very bad right now, the situation they're in. They feel almost toothless to an extent. A.J. Green, who is supposed to be back by week 4, their star wide receiver, is apparently going to need a couple more weeks to heal from his foot injury. Now, John Ross, their second-string receiver, who's coming into his own, suffers a shoulder injury similar to what Tyreek Hill suffered in week 1. And he's still out, so John Ross is going to miss about a month. So now you're down to Tyler Boyd as your number 1 threat. It's not good in Cincinnati right now. They got injuries all across the board. Their offensive line is terrible. Their run game is non-existent with Joe Mixon. Their only real hope right now is that they're playing a horrific Arizona Cardinals defense. That is their only hope right now. The Cardinals are 31st in total defense with they're giving up over 417.5 yards per game. The only team that's worse than them is the Dolphins, who, by the way, are on a bye week. Lions and Dolphins on a bye week. Forgot to mention that. I know, I'm a terrible announcer. Anyway, Cardinals defense is atrocious. But the Bengals aren't much better. Bengals have been really bad ever since week 1. They've just been bad at everything. They've been bad at rushing. They've been bad at passing. They've been bad at defense. They've been bad at pass rush. They've been bad at pass protection. You name it, they've been bad at it. And for the Cardinals, who they were looking like they were getting better week to week through the first 3 weeks. You could see improvement. But then these last 2 weeks happened, and they feel like they've kind of fallen off with their offensive game plan, where Kyler Murray is, being held to under 200 passing yards in 2 straight games, and he's throwing costly interceptions. And it's a lot harder than it was at Oklahoma. He's never had this kind of pressure in his face and, having to basically do it all. He's never had to deal with that. But I do think the Cardinals are probably going to catch a break this weekend with the Bengals. Something's got to give in this game. Somebody's got to win. Or God forbid there's another tie. Oh, Jesus. If the Bengals want to stay productive in this game, they got to manufacture some stuff to Tyler Eifert, their tight end. Because like we mentioned to death on this podcast, that's the weakness, that's the Achilles heel in this Cardinals defense, amongst a variety of things. Yeah, they're really bad, but specifically against tight ends. So just try to get Tyler Eifert involved in as much as you can in this offense. But I think the Cardinals win this one. The Bengals just seem so toothless right now that I just can't see them putting a thing together. I think the Cardinals probably come out, don't score a lot of points, but find a way to win this one. Kyler Murray gets his first win in the NFL. The Cardinals' offense is simple. They can move the ball downfield. They just can't score when they get to the red zone. They just had so many troubles down there this whole season. But I think they'll do enough to figure this one out, and I think the Cardinals get their first win. Moving on to our next one. 2-2 Tampa Bay going all the way to New Orleans to take on the 3-1 Saints. And I think this one could be really fun. I think if you get a chance, you should check this game out at 1 o'clock. Jameis Winston is playing white-hot football right now. 2 straight games of over 350 passing yards, multiple touchdowns. Dude's playing balls out right now. He is playing phenomenal right now. And you can even go back to week 2, if I remember correctly, that Thursday night game against Carolina. He didn't have the greatest statistical game, but he played pretty good. So Jameis Winston is playing great right now, and the question is, can the Saints defense find a way to slow him down? Saints defense has played brilliantly since Breeze got hurt, and if you need any proof of that, just go back and watch the game against Dallas where they absolutely shut down everything Dallas tried to do. But like I said, the Saints defense needs to step up and lead the way again and just try to give Teddy Bridgewater and that offense a chance. The Saints offense is averaging, like 200 passing yards since Breeze got hurt with Teddy Bridgewater in at quarterback. They're averaging like 200 passing yards. Their offensive numbers have taken a dip, but they're finding ways to win, and that's all that matters. But here's the thing that should worry people, especially if you're a Saints fan, because I bet nobody listening right now knows this stat, because I didn't know it until I was doing my research last night. Do you know who has the number 1 rushing defense in the league right now? It's Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has the number 1 rushing defense. They're giving up 59.3 rushing yards a game. And that's got to worry you, because the Saints want to give Alvin Kamara as much production as possible, whether it be through rushing or through receiving coming out of the backfield. So if the Buccaneers can come out and limit Alvin Kamara to some extent, that would be massive for them. And force Teddy Bridgewater to beat them pushing the ball downfield to guys like Michael Thomas. That's what the Buccaneers should hopefully try to do. And not just their rushing defense is legit. Shaquille Barrett on that defensive line is legit, as we've talked about the last 2 weeks. 9 sacks on the year, already has a forced fumble. Dude's making a case to win Defensive Player of the Year right now. He's a game wrecker. And the Saints had a lot of trouble protecting Teddy Bridgewater last week against Dallas. I think he had like 5 sacks in that game. So Ndamukong Suh's on that defensive line, and so is Shaquille Barrett, so is Vita Vea. Got a lot of big run stoppers that can also apparently get after the quarterback. So watch out for that one. Teddy Bridgewater could be under siege in this game. But like I said, it's going to come down, in my opinion, it's going to come down to, can the Saints limit Jameis Winston and force him into bad throws? Force the Jameis Winston of old coming back. Because Jameis Winston right now is playing phenomenally, and he's playing his way into a new contract. For the Saints, just get after him and force him into bad throws. That should be your game plan. A lot of blitzes. Well, hang on. Not a lot of blitzes, because I just remembered there's a stat that Jameis Winston is currently the best quarterback versus the blitz this year. He has a passer rating of like 150 and like 6 touchdowns and no picks versus blitzes this year. So maybe not blitz him, but just try to get after him is what I'm getting at. Force him into bad throws. But this game, oddly enough, gave me the most anxiety trying to determine the winner. I really am believing in the Buccaneers right now. Their offense, their team has been good since week 1. If you exclude that horrific-looking loss in week 1, they've been really good and been playing really sound football. And there is a legitimate argument to be made that if Matthew Gay doesn't shank that kick, the Buccaneers are probably 3-1 at this point. But I believe in Sean Payton, and I believe in that defense, and that's why I'm taking the Saints in New Orleans to win this one. But I wouldn't be stunned if Tampa Bay found a way. I'm really believing in that Tampa Bay offense right now with Bruce Arians as their head coach. He's looking like he maybe kind of figured out Jameis Winston. Just maybe. All right, moving on to our next game. 1-3 Falcons going to Houston to take on the 2-2 Texans. Both teams coming off of very frustrating losses. Houston last week just couldn't do a thing offensively. Deshaun Watson got shut down and sacked a lot. Matt Ryan, on the other hand, their offense has just kind of been a dud the last 2 weeks, to be honest with you. And the Falcons are in a flat-out free fall right now. Nothing is going right for that team. They can't seem to get a run game going. Their passing offense is misfiring. Matt Ryan is turning the ball over way too much. I think he has like 6 to 7 turnovers on the year already. And their defense is just letting people run right by them. It's just nothing is going right for this Atlanta team. In contrast, the Texans, they're week to week. 1 week they're going to protect Deshaun Watson well, and he's going to throw for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns like he did against the Chargers. And then the next week he's going to get sacked 6 times and put up 160 yards and 1 rushing touchdown, and that's his entire stat line. Texans are another AFC South team that's just way too week to week. I don't really believe in the Falcons defense, and that should be good for Houston. So basically protect Deshaun Watson and you should be all right. That is my advice to the Houston Texans. Just protect Watson, you'll be okay, and let him do work. Because when he's under pressure, he's not going to do well. Nobody's going to do well. Nobody's going to do well when they're getting sacked 6 to 7 times in a game. But I'm taking the Texans to win this one. The Falcons have a very bad vibe about them right now. A very bad vibe where things feel like they're just going from bad to worse as the weeks go on. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans come out and lay an egg and the Falcons find a way to win. Because that's just what the AFC South is. Now, like I said, every AFC South team is week to week. So, Texans had a bad week last week. Maybe they have a good one this week. That's just the nature of the beast in the AFC South. The Falcons just have a bad vibe about them right now. In a division like the NFC South, where every team in there feels like they're figuring themselves out on what they want to be and finding ways to win, like the Panthers, like the Saints, like the Buccaneers, the Falcons just feel lost on both sides of the ball. They just feel so lost. And I think it's going to get worse in this game, and that's why I'm taking the Texans to win it. Moving on to another team that feels really lost right now. The 0-3 Jets going to Philadelphia to take on the 2-2 Eagles. We talked about this a bit earlier. Sam Darnold's not going to play. So Luke Falk gets the nod. And like I questioned earlier, does that mean Le'Veon Bell gets a heavy workload in this game? Are they going to come out and try to get him the ball a bunch? You would think that makes sense. But the Eagles have quietly had one of the better rushing defenses in the league. Remember last week on Thursday Night Football when they absolutely shut down the Green Bay running game? The Eagles have the number 4 rush defense in the league, and they're giving up an average of 62 rush yards per game. So even if they come out and try to hand the ball off to Le'Veon Bell a bunch, I don't see it going anywhere. And it's already been announced that Deshaun Jackson for the Eagles is probably not going to play in this game. So this really feels like a little get-right game for the Eagles to get back above 500 before they take on that big road stint that they take on the next 3 weeks, where they go to the Bills, Vikings, and Cowboys. Which, hey, suddenly that road stint doesn't look as dangerous as it did like a week or 2 ago. Vikings seem in free fall, and Josh Allen might not be at quarterback for the Bills. So this schedule just suddenly got a lot easier for the Eagles, who are looking to get back above 500 in this game, and probably will, and that's why I'm taking Philadelphia to win this one. I somehow have negative faith in Luke Falk to quarterback a team. I saw what he did against the Patriots, and yeah, it's the Patriots, and they're the best team in the league. 99 total yards. Remember that. 99. He's probably going to put up something similar. The only quarterback performance I can equate that to was when Matt Castle put up about 90 total yards versus the Seahawks, and I think 2017 when he played for Dallas as quarterback. Yeah. It's not good. When you put up 90 total yards as a quarterback, you're playing very bad football. And that's why Philly's going to win this game. Luke Falk is not going to get anything done. Moving on to another winless team who's going to get absolutely murdered on Sunday. The 4-0 Patriots go into Washington to take on the 0-4 Washington football team. Like we talked about at length earlier, Colt McCoy is going to get the nod at start for the Washington team. I think he's like 1-5 as a starter through the years as their backup. But I think a better question is, will Terry McLaurin, the rookie wide receiver who's arguably their best offensive weapon, play in this game? He missed last week with a hamstring injury. He's been a bit limited at practice, so his status for Sunday is a bit up in the air, and we probably won't know until Sunday. But other than that, the Washington offense is just dead everywhere. They have an abysmal run game with Adrian Peterson. Their offense went from okay and watchable to deader than a doornail in 2 weeks after the Bears dominated them. And then Case Keenum gets benched for Dwayne Haskins, and now Dwayne Haskins isn't even going to play. It's going to be Colt McCoy. It's just a lot that's going on with this Washington team, and none of it is good. But the one thing that I do know for certain is that the Patriots defense is going to dominate. They're averaging like 8 to 9 points per game given up against teams. That's insanity. I mean, somebody put up their stats on the NFL Network about a week ago about their defensive stats and how they started the year. They're very, very close to what they look like the year they went undefeated through the regular season. This Patriots defense is arguably playing right now as good as any Patriots defense has ever played under Bill Belichick. It's that good right now. And yeah, they've played a lot of nobodies, and their first real competition only came last week against the Bills. But I'm just saying, they're playing lights out football, and they're going to look even more dominant against an absolutely lifeless Washington offense. Devin McCourty, the Patriots defender, leads the league in interceptions. He has 4. He has 1 in every game, which is insane. 4 interceptions on the year. You know who's in second place? Jamie Collins, also a Patriots defender, with 3 of his own. The Patriots are absolute ball hawks back there right now. And it's going to probably go from bad to worse for Colt McCoy this Sunday. And it's probably going to get ugly very, very fast for Washington. And that's why I've got the Patriots winning. It's in Washington, too. You got a team that's going to come in and probably just blow you out in your home. It's in front of a probably half-empty stadium because it sounds like a lot of the Washington fans have gotten sick of the team. There was a writer for The Athletic. I forget who she was. Oh, God, I forget her name right now. But she said she was talking with a colleague over the weekend, and he said that he had gone out to the store during the football games, and there were so many Washington fans just in their jerseys that they all had just given up. They weren't even watching the team anymore. In the middle of a game, they had just given up. It's just sad to see a fan base that is basically just tired. They're tired. They're done. And it's just going bad for worse for that team. That's why I've got the Patriots winning this one. All right, moving on. 2-2 Ravens going to Pittsburgh to take on the 1-3 Steelers. A nice little AFC North divisional rivalry game. These two teams hate each other. They don't like each other. But it's not like it was. There's no Joe Flacco. There's no Ben Roethlisberger. There's no Terrell Suggs. This rivalry looks a lot different. Now it's Lamar Jackson versus Mason Rudolph. And Ryan Fitzpatrick versus Earl Thomas. It looks a lot different. But the Ravens' defense in this game has to step up. They cannot continue to be as bad as they have been. They've given up over 1,000 yards the last 2 weeks and over 70 points the last 2 games. They cannot keep this up. And if Mason Rudolph comes out and looks competent and is pushing the ball downfield on you, you have massive problems because he has just been a dump-off machine these last 2 weeks as a starting quarterback for Pittsburgh. Which is in contrast to what he was in college. I mean, Mason Rudolph played at Oklahoma State. I watched a lot of his games because I'm a Texas fan and they play in the Big 12. But, he was throwing the ball deep at Oklahoma State. That's what their offense is known for. A lot of deep passes. Mike Gundy lives it up down there. He's a man. He's 40. But he's just been dumping a lot of safe check downs, and he said this week that he wants to get Juju Smith more involved in that offense, even though he's already involved. He's been his most targeted wide receiver these past 2 weeks, so it's not like he's not trying to get him the ball. It's just their offense just hasn't been explosive for Pittsburgh. And you got to wonder, their run game kind of came back to life for a week last week because they broke out the Wildcat, made things tricky. Are we going to see even more Wildcat this week? I mean, this week we know to prepare for it. If you're Baltimore, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. It won't catch them by surprise like it did with the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals were floored by the Wildcat. They were not expecting that whatsoever. But hopefully James Conner can get more involved for this Pittsburgh Steelers offense because they desperately need it with Mason Rudolph, not being a prolific air passer. So it'll remains to be seen. It feels like these two teams kind of are almost a perfect match for each other right now. You got a defense who can't stop anybody, and you got a Pittsburgh Steelers offense who feels like they can't really put up a bunch of yards or points. Feels like a match made in heaven, doesn't it? Yeah, real AFC North bloodbath like it's been. Hooray! But here's the thing. Lamar Jackson in that offense is still very dangerous. They're still one of the best rushing teams in the league. And he is still flat out dangerous through the air. I don't care that they've lost 2 games. He's still a really great quarterback. He can put up points. He had like 25 points last week, and he had almost 30 the week before that. And, maybe 25 will be enough in this game. I don't believe in the Steelers right now. Despite what they keep, screaming that they can win right now, I don't believe it. Okay, wow. You beat up on a toothless Bengals team that has shown no life since week 1. Good job. I still don't believe in him. I do not believe in Mason Rudolph. That offense has shown little to no anything since this entire season. I just don't believe in him. And that's why I'm taking the Ravens to win this one. I just don't believe in Mason Rudolph, and I don't believe in that offense. And, maybe by the time week 8 rolls around, maybe Pittsburgh will come to terms with the fact that they're not winning this season. Maybe. We'll see. I doubt it. They still think they can win, but we'll see about it. Moving on to the last of our early games, we got the 2-2 Minnesota Vikings going all the way to New York to take on the also 2-2 New York Giants. And we talked at length about Stephon Diggs, and he might not play in this game. And when I was doing my write-ups and research for all the games last night, I had wondered maybe Minnesota would try to, satiate Diggs and, force feed him in this game, but now it sounds like he might not even play. So we'll keep an eye on that. But the Vikings offense feels like it's in a massive free fall right now, and they're going up against the Giants team that is really, really, really high up on themselves right now. They have been playing much better football since Daniel Jones took over. Not just offensively, their defense has stepped up just last week against Washington. I know they did it against a very, very bad Washington team. I'm just saying, they're playing better. They were one of the worst defenses in the league the first couple weeks, and then they suddenly played really great, so it was worth watching. But if you're the Giants defense, the main way you stop this Vikings offense, stop Dalvin Cook. If Stephon Diggs isn't out there, they just have Adam Thielen. Go out there, put 8 guys in the box, and tell Kirk Cousins, throw it downfield to Adam Thielen. We triple dog dare you to do it, because we don't think you can. That should be the Giants' mentality right now. Come out there and dare them to beat you through the air. You should know Mike Zimmer doesn't want to do that, and you should know Kirk Cousins isn't throwing that ball. That's just what the Vikings are right now. So the Giants' defense should come out with some energy and just try to force them. I think that's the way you beat them. Because this Giants offense, I think, is going to put up points in this game. They've been doing it every week so far. I know they've played some. They haven't played world beaters yet with Daniel Jones, but he's played really well. Put up over 30 points in Tampa, and he put up enough last week. He didn't look the greatest, but he still got the job done. And they have an embarrassment of riches on the offensive side of the ball. Golden Tate's coming back from suspension. It's obvious that Daniel Jones has an affinity for Sterling Shepard. He's kind of become like a safety blanket for the guy. That's not a bad thing. It's just that's who his safety blanket is. It's Sterling Shepard. Evan Ingram is really coming into his own. Wayne Gallman proved well in the backup role last week. Oh, and by the way, Saquon Barkley is already out of the walking boot and was at practice this week. Saquon Barkley could literally be back by next week. After a high ankle sprain that said he would be out like 4 to 6 weeks, he could be back after 3 weeks. They're saying that he could potentially even play this week. He probably won't, and that's just trying to keep, the Vikings defense honest, but still. It's insane that he's already this close to being ready to go. The Giants' offense is completely different now that Daniel Jones is in there. His mobility and his passing ability has ignited a long dead Giants offense. And now they're suddenly dangerous. They're not a pushover anymore. They're dangerous now. And people need to realize that very quickly. I have little to no faith in the Vikings offense right now because they're so one-dimensional and running an offense out of 1972. And that's why I'm taking the Giants to win this one. I think the Giants improved to 3-2, and their defense is just going to come out and smother Dalvin Cook. The Vikings need to learn that they got to be able to get the ball downfield. Start with some small, simple completions to try and build up Kirk Cousins' confidence, and then push it downfield. You cannot come out and do this only run offense stuff. It will not work. And you are going to get beat. Mike Zimmer needs to understand that. And I don't think he does. That's why the Giants win this game. All right, moving on to the first of our late games. We got the 0-4 Broncos going all the way to LA to take on the 2-2 Chargers. Broncos are another team that are just really not in a good place right now. If the Broncos lose this game and start 0-5, it will be the first time in franchise history that they've ever started 0-5. So basically, it's a must-win game for Denver. A lot of people are very bullish when they around that term must-win game, but this is very much a must-win game for Denver. Melvin Gordon is expected to play. Head coach Anthony Lynn for the Chargers said Gordon's going to play, but they're probably going to keep head coach Anthony Lynn is probably going to keep him on a pitch count. Sorry, my audio cut out there. Anyway, it looks like Melvin Gordon's probably not going to play a whole bunch in this game, which is probably good for the Broncos, but that means Austin Eckler is still probably going to see a heavy workload in this game, both receiving and rushing. But the key to this game isn't exactly keeping Melvin Gordon in check. The key to this game for the Broncos is to slow down Keenan Allen, the Chargers wide receiver, who is leading the league in receiving yards by a very wide margin. Let's see here. He already has... Oh, God, where is it in my notes? I think he has over, 400 yards receiving or something like that. I don't seem to have it here in my notes. I don't know where it went. It's weird. Anyway. Oh, there it is. 452 passing yards. 452 passing yards already on the season through 4 weeks. He's flat out balling, and it doesn't feel like enough people are talking about that. But surprisingly enough, as much as we've really got onto the Broncos for their defense being awful, they have the number 5 passing defense in the league, giving up exactly 200 yards per game through the air. That's pretty solid. And they're going to need to do that against an offense that has been putting up great yards through the first couple of weeks, even though the results haven't been there for the Chargers. But like I said, Melvin Gordon should play in this game against a very not good rushing defense for the Broncos. They're 30th in the league, giving up 149.3 yards per game through the ground. So it's really just going to come down to, can this defense finally step up? I mean, they finally figured out how to rush the passer last week. They got 5 sacks last week, so now figure out how to close out a game is what they need to do. And when I was sitting here writing and researching this game, I wanted to talk about the Broncos offense. But before I even started pulling up numbers, I thought to myself, what's the point? It won't matter what the Broncos offense does if this defense is just going to choke it away in the final minutes, like they've done the entire year. I mean, we're only through 4 weeks, and we've already seen twice already Joe Flacco score touchdowns in the final minute and a half to 2 minutes of games to give the Broncos the lead, and the defense just choke away a lead. I mean, it truly does not matter what they do if this defense is just going to blow it. And you got to feel really bad for Joe Flacco because he's not playing awful. He's not. He's given this team chances to win. They just decide, no, we're just going to lose instead. And it's really kind of sad to watch. But plain and simple, I think the Chargers are a much better team than the Broncos right now. And Keenan Allen is playing at an elite level. He's averaging 113 receiving yards per game, leads the league. And I think it's all just going to be way too much for the Broncos to handle. I think the Chargers win this one and the Broncos start 0-5 for the first time in franchise history. It's a lot to take in for the Broncos right now. They're not in a good place. And moving on to the last of our late games, and this should be a game you should watch. There's only 2 late games on, and you should watch this one. The 3-1 Green Bay Packers going all the way to Arlington, Texas, to take on the also 3-1 Dallas Cowboys. It feels like every single time these two teams play, for the last couple of years, dating all the way back to like 2014. It's been an instant classic every single time that just comes down to the wire. And the game is going to come down to Rodgers' arm, is usually how it goes. Interesting stat, Aaron Rodgers is undefeated, 3-0, including the playoffs, 3-0 in AT&T Stadium in Dallas. So he's never lost in Dallas against the Cowboys, which is a crazy stat. The Cowboys technically have a better record against Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau Field than they do on their home. That's pretty sad, to be honest with you. Devontae Adams sounds like he's not going to play in this game, still dealing with a turf toe injury he suffered last week against Philadelphia. But the main question, there's questions surrounding both of these teams' offenses, and let's first start with Dallas. The question becomes, will the Dallas offense go back to what it was the first 3 weeks? Will we go back to the run-pass options, the quarterback runs with Dak Prescott, the shifts and motions before the snap? Or is it going to be super conservative like it was against New Orleans, where they're just running the ball a whole bunch and they're not getting anything done? Tyron Smith, the starting left tackle who had been playing really well to start the year, is out of this game with an ankle sprain. So that's really going to hamper things for Dallas, especially against the Packers defensive line that has played really well so far this season, really getting after quarterbacks, especially guys like Preston Smith on that line. It could be a long day at the office for Dak Prescott. But for Dallas, even if they go super conservative, that might benefit them in this game. And they just run the ball a bunch. Because we talked about it last Friday, after the Packers-Eagles game, maybe the Eagles delivered us a blueprint on how to handle this Packers defense. The Eagles just ran the ball a bunch, and it worked effectively. They had almost 200 rushing yards. The Packers are one of the worst rushing defenses in the league. They're like 26th or 20. Yeah, they're 26th versus the run. So they're one of the worst. So does that mean will Zeke Elliott eat in this game after being held to like less than 50 yards last week? So that's the Cowboys' offensive woes, is are they going to be conservative? And even if they're conservative, that might benefit them. It felt like they picked the wrong week to do a bunch of runs against New Orleans. They should have saved that for this week. But then looking at Green Bay's offense, watching them play through the first couple weeks, they have been at their absolute best when Aaron Rodgers is improvising. That's kind of sad, isn't it? when they tried the Matt LaFleur way, it was so Jekyll and Hyde and only showed up in spurts. Will their run game be able to show up in this game? It was shut down completely by Philadelphia last week, and Aaron Rodgers had to throw for over 400 yards to give him a chance. I really think this game probably comes down to the wire in Dallas. It's probably going to come down to whoever has the football last. And like a 28-24 kind of win. That's usually how these two teams play each other. It really is. Speaking as somebody who's had his heart broken by Aaron Rodgers and the Packers more times than he can count over the last 5 years. I just think this comes down to the wire, but I wouldn't be surprised if either team won it. But their offenses need to show me more, show me consistency. But even if the Cowboys get conservative, like I said, that might benefit them, and that's why I'm taking Dallas to win this one. We'll see how much the Packers have shown up their running defense. They've had a couple extra days to prepare for this game, like 3 extra days to prepare. So maybe their run defense will be better in this game. We'll have to wait and see for Sunday, but Dallas through the ground might actually work this week, unlike last week, and Aaron Rodgers might have to do it all for the Packers again. Should be a really fun one in Arlington, Texas this weekend, though. All right, moving on to our Sunday night football game. We only got 2 more games left. I got the 2-2 Indianapolis Colts going all the way to Kansas City to take on the 4-0 Chiefs. I think this game could be really fun, even though Indianapolis has like everybody hurt in this game. Did you know Jacoby Brissett, the Colts quarterback, has thrown the same number of touchdowns as Patrick Mahomes has? They're both tied at 10. It's crazy. It's crazy. I think it just goes to show that Jacoby's not just a backup, that he can still play in this league. But like I said, the Colts are still hurting. It doesn't sound like T.Y. Hilton's going to be healthy for this game. I haven't heard anything about Marlon Mack, their running back. I don't know if he's going to play or not. The Colts are just horrifically banged up everywhere right now. Still no Darius Leonard, their linebacker, and Malik Hooker's still going to be out a couple more weeks. They're hurt everywhere across the board, and you really got to be feeling for this quarterback Jacoby and head coach Frank Reich. I mean, they just can't seem to catch a break. They put a couple good games together, then everybody gets hurt. And they were very much in that Raiders game last week until, Jacoby throws that pick six. It was the injuries and shooting themselves in the foot was just too much to overcome for them. The question's going to be, can Jacoby keep up with this Mahomes-led offense who might go off in this one against a banged-up defense? I mean, Mahomes is love and Mahomes is life. He didn't have the greatest week last week versus Detroit, had 300 passing yards but no touchdowns. He's probably going to have a couple in this game. So we're going to see who gets it. Sammy Watkins maybe comes back. Mecole Hardman. Robinson. It sounds like Tyreek Hill is starting to get healthy. That should be very scary for other teams. I really think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. If Marlon Mack was healthy and playing in this game, it would really benefit the Colts because the Chiefs, like we mentioned last week, have a very, very suspect run defense, and that was proven by Kerryon Johnson and the Lions run team. Their run defense is suspect, and if Marlon Mack was healthy, it would really, really help out the Colts. I just don't think Marlon Mack is even close to 100%, even if he plays in this game. But this is going to probably be super high scoring. I think Jacoby will score a couple touchdowns, and this will probably be a game in the second half. As much as I feel like people want to write off the Colts because of injuries, Jacoby will keep them in it, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's still like a 1-2 score game in the fourth quarter. The Colts are only down by 10. But this game's probably going to have like a final scoreline of like 35-24. It's going to be pretty high scoring. But I haven't bet against the Chiefs all season, and I'm not going to bet against them until they play the Patriots. But I'll take the Chiefs in this one. I am a big believer in the Colts, but they're just way too hurt right now. They're just way, way, way too hurt to put together anything, in my opinion. And then moving on to the last game, which is also a game I think you should watch if you get the chance. The 2-2 Cleveland Browns going all the way to San Francisco to take on the undefeated 3-0, coming off a bye week, San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football. Now, outside of week 1 when the Texans played the Saints, it feels like we've gotten a lot of duds on Monday Night Football this year. I think this one could be really fun. I'm really looking forward to this game. The 49ers defense is in the top 10 at least in every single statistical category so far this season. Number 3 in total D with 283 yards per game. They're top 10 in rush defense. They're top 10 in pass defense. They're top 10 in, you name it, they're in it. Their defense is otherwise known as they're playing really good right now. Now, you say that and you have to look at who they played. Well, in week 1, they played against Tampa Bay, who really looked awful, and Jameis Winston turned the ball over a bunch. Week 2, they went to Cincinnati and beat a toothless Bengals team. Then last week, they beat up on Mason Rudolph, in week 3, they beat up on Mason Rudolph, who only completed 2 passes past the line of scrimmage. That's who they've played, and that's who they've beaten up on. So this will be the biggest team that they played so far, and a 2-2 Browns team, who is also coming off their biggest win, an absolute dominating effort over the Ravens. But the way the 49ers are winning games right now, they're playing stellar defense and they're running the ball a lot. The 49ers are the number 2 rushing offense in the league, and they're averaging 175 rush yards per game. They don't have a bell cow. They have a true backfield by committee. They're just mixing the ball up a bunch. And giving it to like 3 to 4 different guys and telling them to just go off. And when you do that, and not just the number 2 rushing offense, they're the number 4 total offense in the league, averaging 421 yards per game. Almost missed that part of my notes because I looked away. And a lot of that is through the run game. They had a running game, I think it was against the Bengals in week 2, where they had over 200 yards rushing. So when you do that much rushing, you lighten things up on Jimmy Garoppolo, who is, coming back from that torn ACL, and it showed glimpses of being something in San Francisco. I really do not believe in their wide receiver room. I don't think there's a lot of talent there, but I like George Kittle at tight end. I really like George Kittle at tight end. And they're going to run the ball a lot, and they play good defense. That's their game plan. They're going to come out and do that. Then with the Browns, we saw the Browns put things together against the Ravens, and they did what I just talked about the Niners doing. They played really good defense, even with the banged-up secondary, and they ran the ball a bunch with Nick Chubb, and that opened up everything else. That allowed Baker to go off, and because they were double-teaming Odell Beckham, that allowed Jarvis Landry to go off. Now, Jarvis Landry is working with a concussion right now for the Browns. It sounds like he's, if I'm to understand it correctly, I haven't really, paid a whole bunch of attention to it, but it sounds like he's probably going to get to play on Monday night. And that's good for the Browns because, that means they have 2 major weapons out there in Odell and Jarvis. So if the 49ers and Richard Sherman in that defense want to come out and just double team Odell, okay, Jarvis Landry might go off again. Or are you going to put some guys in the box to try and stop Nick Chubb? That was always the worry with this Browns offense, is that they could beat you in a multitude of ways. But for the Browns, it's simple. Do what you did against the Ravens. Give it to Nick Chubb and try to lighten the load on Baker. It worked last time. Try it again. And also, for the love of God, protect Baker Mayfield. Please, protect Baker Mayfield. Because if he's under pressure and making bad decisions, it's going to be a long night for this Browns offense. And this defense with Myles Garrett on that defensive line, just get after Jimmy Garoppolo. Those first 3 weeks, Jimmy Garoppolo was turning the ball over a fair amount. I mean, the 49ers' last game, when they played Pittsburgh in week 3, they turned the ball over 5 times. 5 times. 49ers are a bit turnover happy, and we're going to see if they fix that problem coming into this game. But if not, it could also be a long night for the 49ers. Another sloppy game. Uh, and it was like 3 of those turnovers were in the red zone, which were really just dooming the 49ers on their own. And like last week, we got a lot of good litmus tests in week 4 for undefeated teams. This is going to be a good litmus test for both of these teams. We'll see how good the 49ers are against an actual competitive team, and we'll see if the Browns offense has really figured things out, or if last week was just they're playing a really, really bad Ravens team. Ravens defense. I need to qualify that statement. Ravens defense. Their offense isn't bad, just their defense. And so I think we're going to learn a lot about both of these teams. If the Browns offense comes out and just lays a dud, I think you're going to hear all of that talk come back into the conversation of, have the Browns really figured things out offensively, or is that just a 1-week thing? But if the Browns come out and look competent, the Browns, in my opinion, the Browns don't have to win this game. Come out and look competent, and I think that's good enough, in my opinion. And for the 49ers, we'll see how good they are as well. My key concern is their defense. We're going to see how good it is, because it looked impressive the first couple of weeks. We'll see how good it really is against a team with a lot of weapons. But I want to believe in this 49ers team. I really do. And that's why I'm picking them to win. I got the 49ers in this one on Monday night. Hey, and if the 49ers win this one and start 4-0, it will be the first time they've done that since 1990. Yeah, how about that? All right, that is everything I have. Went through like 6 pages of notes for this game. For this podcast, I should say. So, here's what's going to happen. We're all going to go enjoy week 5 on Sunday. And hope everybody's favorite teams win, as long as they're not the Packers. Then next time I talk to you guys, it'll be Tuesday. We're going to recap all the games we just previewed, do any news, and then do a preview for Thursday Night Football next week between the Patriots and Giants. Go from 2 fun Thursday Night Football games to probably a dud Thursday football game. That's not fun at all. All right, everybody. Hope you have a great, safe weekend. Enjoy the football, and see you Tuesday. Bye.